want to know what we're up to at Citizens Climate Lobby Canada, just go to canada.citizensclimatelobby.org and it'll tell you exactly what we're doing currently. So we have a digital campaign going, but it's got one glitch, and we're not promoting it quite yet. We've reintroduced it. We don't ever want to go through what we just went through with regards to the feeling of foreign interference and in our election. So we did a lot of, at Citizens Climate Lobby, our solution to climate change is democracy. So one of the strong actions that we're supporting, not lobbying for, is to strengthen Canada's democracy. And in February, we had the experts in Canada, Democracy Watch and Duff Conacher, come onto our call and show us what we need to do to protect Canada's democracy going forward. And we've got this digital campaign going, but one little glitch is New Mode, where we have this program, has not quite yet updated their database. So we're not promoting it, but I wanted you to know that we're doing this. It's a digital campaign we're going to run for the next couple of months. And we want our government to implement C70. So they passed a counter foreign interference bill last June, but they've not implemented most of the actions in there. So we want that to be implemented. We want the security clearance for leaders. Pierre Poilievre still does not have his clearance. We want to double the public broadcaster funding for CBC to protect Canada and our heritage and our culture. There are things that they can do to amend the Election Act, and there were previous bills introduced in Parliament that they can do, as well as strengthen whistleblower protections. So that's our big digital campaign for the next couple months. And we will start promoting it once New Mode updates the database for the MPs, so it goes to the right MP. Our Changemakers Hour is open every Wednesday at this time. You are welcome to join and come back. It changes slightly every week, but you might want to, get a refresher. And in 45 minutes from now is Write to Ignite, which is our weekly co-working space for writing letters to the editor and op-eds. This middle part of our website here shows mostly the actions that we're doing. So every single month since September 2010, we send out what are called action sheets to our volunteers. And if you want to get on that mailing list and get more of the emails about, when we're meeting, you are welcome to indicate that to me by putting your name in the chat. So these are the actions this month. We're doing an action called G7 at the table. We're also asking our volunteers to log any missing action reports. I'll talk about G7 at the table shortly, and I've already talked about protecting our democracy digital campaign, and we've got a national conference coming up in October. So we've already got them thinking about it. So as you can see, we're highly organized, and I'll talk about G7 at the table shortly. And every single month, our volunteers also get laser talks. So this month, laser talks is about the G7. Now, why the G7? Why are we focusing on that? Because we are in a time in history where multilateral agreements and relationships are going to be tested like never before. So raising the awareness of the importance of the G7 and everybody becoming better ambassadors for explaining this to their fellow community members and to their family, as well as to their own MPs, is really something we feel that we should focus on. And so our volunteers this month will take the time, and it's like 30 minutes or so, to read the 2 laser talks on the G7. So I will do that just to show you what it's like. So every single month, our volunteers get actions and then related talking points. So we gave them a G7 backgrounder, this will be the 50th anniversary of the first G7 meetings and near to the date of the 15th anniversary of the G8, G20 riots in Toronto in 2010, where over 1,000 arrests were made, making it the largest mass arrest in Canadian history. The 2025 G7 Leaders Summit will be held in Kananaskis, Alberta from June 15th to June 17th. From international peace, security to global economic stability, inclusive growth, and digital transitions, today's challenges and opportunities demand global cooperation and shared solutions. This will be the 7th time we've hosted the G7 G8 Summit. It's called the G7 because it's an informal forum of the most advanced economies. So Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom, and the United States, as well as the European Union. And the G7 began in the 1970s with Canada joining in 1976. It expanded to the G8 in 1997, but then the Russians was booted out of there for invading Crimea, and they're certainly not welcome now. So, and then here's some of the achievements from the G7, and this is also something that you may not know. I'm not going to go through all 7 of them, but it just shows you the power of the G7. In the 2022 G7 in Germany, we got the Carbon Pricing Club formed, and we worked really hard at that from 2020 to 2022 behind the scenes. I personally coordinated over a dozen international citizen climate lobbyists who engaged with the civil society networks, including in the Civil Society 7, the Labor 7, the Think Tank 7, the Youth 7, and the Women's 7. And we finally got carbon pricing included in a G7 communique.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was super exciting. So we don't want to go backwards on that. But see, that's the sort of stuff that our volunteers get every single month. They get actions and they get talking points. And their big action this month, besides catching up on their field reports, action reports, and donating some money, is to invite their MP out for a meal to talk about G7. So we've created this placemat that you can, copy and then have printed, or, just even on a piece of paper to guide your conversations. And you can get a lot more training, and I'll talk about that in about 15 minutes, and about 10 minutes. But this is just invite your MP to talk about the G7, focusing on the climate. And I'll give you more training on that at the bottom of the hour, because that's what the second half of this call is dedicated to. So going back to the website, and just always on this website are, what we're up to. And one of the big things people keep asking us, what are you lobbying for? What are you lobbying for? So until mid-June, our lobbying focus will remain laser sharp, redirecting money away from fossil fuels. And we're just going to focus on 3 things that our volunteers know very well if they want to lobby. The fact is, big oil and what's happening now, some of their members are playing really dirty, and we've got to get money away from them. And even if the fossil fuel industry could somehow remove the dangerous greenhouse gases it plans to release into the atmosphere while at the same time proposing an expansions, which are dangerous fairy tales of unproven dangerous geoengineering, we are in the exponential phase of the transition away from fossil fuels. Thus, ongoing investments in fossil fuel puts our financial systems at risk, and our major source of deadly particulate pollution, that's not the CO2 pollution, this is the particulate pollution responsible for 1 in 7 premature deaths globally. So we're continuing our very focused on getting money away from fossil fuels. Now you're probably wondering, how do we decide what we lobby for? And I will just briefly say, we apply two key criteria. They must dramatically reduce global heating gases, and they must have momentum. So, and how do we formulate that? We actually put together a national action team, and we also listen very carefully. That's why we want people to meet with their MPs about the G7 and get some ideas about what this parliament is going to do so we can determine if this is something we want to push or help push or not push or push against. We've got to know. And then we put together a lobbying ask team, and then they will put that together for us. So, and that's pretty much the homepage of our website. And as I said, I will also do the volunteer handbook, which is also on the website here. And then we put together these huge booklets where all the laser talks are in there that you can peruse as well. But I won't click on that because I'm going to run out of time. But here is our volunteer handbook. You can find it on the homepage of our website. We are very organized, Ezra. I think Niall's used to us, but I think you should, we are thousands of ordinary people who are lobbying with one voice, lobbying in a relentless, unstoppable, yet respectful way. Marshall Saunders founded CCL in 2007, and in 2010 he met me, and Citizens Climate Lobby Canada was born. We have over 40 active chapters in Canada alone. We just got a new active chapter in Halliburton. Very exciting. Again, our solution to climate change is democracy, and we're known as the NICE lobbying group on Parliament Hill, and we just take an all hands deck solution to it. Yep, and we know what we're doing. I mean, it's really hard work is hard. And we lobbied 939 times to get your dividend check, which was unfortunately canceled due to massive amounts of lies on the internet. But, that's how it goes. And we will continue to focus on carbon pricing, and you'll see how that is shaping up next month. We basically lobby for carbon border adjustments, regulating fossil fuel advertising, a cap on emission, climate aligned finances. And I think we're going to change this up in our carbon. We're still going to focus on carbon pricing with rebates, but in a special way. And that will be a lot more obvious after mid-June. We just have to figure it out. We have values, which we focus on. And when you get trained by us more formally, we go through each and every one of these, and you can just see what a beautiful organization we are. We bucket everything into what are called the 5 levers of political will. So as I was talking about earlier with our action sheets, every month we give out actions. Yes, our big action this month is lobbying, but we also do media relations ongoing, and sometimes we're doing grassroots outreach, and grass tops engagement, and chapter development. And I won't go into the details.
What's grass tops?
What's grass tops? Oh, that's a great question. That's like lobbying, like your mayor, or lobbying a church leader, or lobbying a business leader, or an NGO. And then we're very organized in that we have a whole bunch of ad hoc teams. So you're part of the leaders. Sorry, got a question?
Yeah, sorry. I hear you using the word lobbying quite a lot. Is this like being on the lobby registry type lobbying, or are we talking more about?
Yeah, we actually do lobby. That's right in our name. Because you are unpaid, you do not have to register.
I
If
see.
you're a paid lobbyist, you have to register. As a citizen, it is your right to talk to your politician. If you bring them good information. In fact, they really like to hear from you. Like, I know very few people who have actually spoken to their politician and sat down and talked specifically about policy before. Thanks for coming, Jane. We're recording this. That's why I'm just plowing ahead.
Yeah, I was in the waiting room for a while, but I was late. I only joined today.
Okay, sorry. Where are you calling in from, Jane?
North end of Toronto.
North end of Toronto, okay.
So COAL, I found it being discussed at a COAL meeting this morning. That's Climate Action for Lifelong Learners. It's a downtown Toronto group of mostly academics, but good education on climate stuff.
Well, wonderful. It's great.
Turned out a bunch of them said they belong to CCL and I should check it out.
Yeah, I maybe come back again next Wednesday too, because this one's I mean, I'll go about 5 minutes over if that's okay, because I don't think anybody's going to show up for the G7 thing. So I wanted to just finish this up and then show you one more thing, and then we'll move on to the G7 action. So yeah, we have, like, you'll notice that we don't email people all the time like this to talk about things. We actually have chunked teams, and they get a lot of the work done. We only have 2 very part-time staff members. I'm a volunteer right now, doing this work, and have been volunteering for the last 15 years. Because it's just, there's no money to train people to talk about climate change and then go lobby. But we are fundraising right now. So every single month you get an action sheet. We talk about, highlight current national actions and what upcoming team calls they're on. And then, and what also the laser talks. And then we have 2 calls that are associated with that. And they're on the second and following Friday. Yeah, they're on the second and Thursday and Friday of the month usually. And then every single month they get new action sheets. And our yearly schedule was slightly changed because of the elections. Our lobbying will actually be in October. We have a big action coming up in June, a pretty big event. And lastly, for this here, CCL has taught me one powerful lesson. A small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can indeed change the world. And Cheryl's been with us since September 2010, and she's still with us. So this is the work of our amazing volunteers. So they enter their actions, and you got to keep in mind there were 2 major elections. So we're a little bit behind on our lobbying because we've been too busy working in elections to actually go lobby. And generally in years where there's a national election, I don't think we've ever had an Ontario election and a national election in one year, these numbers go down, but we are on track to exceeding our what we did last year again. So this is really great work. And just one more thing. Oh yes, and we just lobbied MPP Clancy, Aisling Clancy, who used to be a CCL member. Now she's an MPP. And actually the leader of the BC Green Party is also a former CCLer. And we've got a few of our members who are also council members in various parts of Canada. Oh, that's not what I wanted to click on. Sorry. I wanted to click on here. Lastly, oh, it's going to the wrong spot. Why is that? All right. Okay. So lastly, we're not guessing at what we lobby for. And there's this really cool simulator. It's called the En-ROADS simulator. It's used by the UN, G7, all major countries. And you can look at like all these different policy alternatives and see how much it decreases the different fossil fuel uses, and also brings down CO2 and the atmospheric temperatures by 2100. And on June the 5th, we will be sharing a workshop as a fundraiser we're bringing in some really En-ROADS ambassadors to share this with our members who are very keen to do this. But does anybody have a climate policy that they would like to see enacted in Canada or around the world to see what would happen to global temperatures by 2100 or fossil fuel use? Does anyone have a favorite climate policy?
What if we were to increase dependence on nuclear energy by, I don't know, maybe just move it up, I guess, 20%, let's say.
Okay, so let's start like subsidizing it and see what happens. Highly subsidized, highly subsidized. It barely lowers temperature because it doesn't decrease fossil fuel use, and it takes a long time to put into the system as well. So the more energy that you create in the economy just the more energy people will use. It's just basically how it goes. So yeah, even if you subsidized it to the max, it will only lower temperatures by 0.1 degrees.
Do
According to,
renewables do the same thing then? Or is it the idea that they can come
yep,
on? Yeah.
yep.
Same.
So if you maximize nuclear and renewables, like you barely get anything. So the more energy you put in the system, the more energy people use. And in fact, the richer people tend to use a lot more energy. So if you subsidize it, you're often just subsidizing the energy intensive habits of the rich, and the poor and the middle class really don't benefit all that much. So
So
any
what
other,
if we decreased fossil gas by 50%, which I understand is fully doable?
we could, but what policy would you use to do that?
Well, certainly my city's been looking at, and others are looking at forbidding the use of gas hookups in new buildings. There are some some places in Canada that have put that in place municipally.
Well, yeah, that's hard to do. This I don't. So basically, if you, oh wait, is it transport? Is it, well, just blocking it. It if you, it's a portion of it for sure. That would only be new hookups. Like we've already got existing stuff, so it.
Yeah, but we're building a lot of new homes, and we have at least a couple of premiers who are promoting fossil gas despite it being very dirty.
Oh yes, I know. I've been to.
So,
So,
is there I don't know whether there's something that could be done federally, but it could certainly stop subsidizing oil and gas, and it could
yeah, if we stop. Yeah.
stop the, supporting it, and including through the Canada Pension Plan.
Yeah, so if you got rid of all the subsidies for coal, oil, and gas, it does not bring down the temperature at all because it's very little of a price. It's like only about $10, $15 a ton. So it doesn't actually change behavior. And I'm just eyeballing that there. So, and as for municipalities stopping it, like that's a good question, and perhaps you should come on June the 5th. Yeah, so this really guides what we do. If we really maximized energy efficiency in transport and electrified transport, and basically what you're saying is basically making homes more efficient, that would basically be getting CO2 out of them, also electrifying everything. I mean, these are all great to do. Getting rid of, yeah, go ahead.
And we are hoping the federal government will put in a subsidized heat pump plan for.
Yeah, that's all. That all be like the energy efficiency and like in the buildings and energy and stuff. But nothing comes close to reducing the temperature in one fell swoop than carbon pricing. And in fact, if you maximize everything that you possibly can, like get rid of the subsidies and maximize nuclear and maximize renewables and plant as many trees as possible and do all the nature-based solutions, and then get rid of, this starts to help a lot. It's really hard to get to a 1.5C planet without carbon pricing. It takes a big chunk out of it. So that's why we focus on carbon pricing. And that is our focus. And we so wish other organizations would go to Parliament Hill and lobby for other things, because it takes so much of our energy to train people just to focus on carbon pricing. So that is our focus. Yeah. So any questions?
So with the carbon tax, the domestic carbon tax being taken out of the platform for natural energy right now, how do we address that?
Well, there are two other carbon pricing policies federally. There's the industrial carbon price, and if they maximize that and really tweaked it, it could really go a long ways into reducing our national emissions, like a lot, like way more than any of those other policies. As well, the cap on emissions in the oil and gas sector could also really reduce them as well. So those are the two things we are focusing on. And then to make our industry still be competitive, we're going to be asking our government to enact border carbon adjustment mechanisms or border carbon tariffs, which is something that Mark Carney has promised to do. So anything to protect our industries from unfair competitiveness would also be something we advocate for. So
And that actually really aligns well with the whole trying to pivot away from the US, which supposedly we're doing, because if you're trying to orient towards the EU, for sure, you will be subject to a carbon, they'll hit you with a border carbon adjustment unless you've got the carbon pricing in the house. So
yeah,
it's a good argument for doing it.
Yep, it was so cool that the WTO knew what we were doing. So the Canadian division at the WTO invited a small cohort of us to sit in on their day-long workshop during COVID on how to administer border carbon adjustment mechanisms with the European Union coming in. So like we're just really lucky to be at the table. So putting a price on pollution is our focus. And also, go ahead. No, go ahead.
And that industrial pollution pricing policy, that's a mouthful. Large emitter trading system, that's the LETS, that's the one?
Yeah.
Or that's allows you to trade it. It goes hand in glove with it, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like a cap and trade, but without the cap for big industries like steel, cars, mining, etc. To make them pay a pollution price if they go over the standard, and then but that money goes into a shared bucket for all those in that industry, and then they redistribute it back out. So it doesn't go to the people; it goes back to the industry.
Right. But the idea is if I remember, you get an allowance, and then if you go above that allowance, then you have to buy additional credits to allow you to do that. And then if I'm below my allowance, I can sell those.
Yeah, it's kind of like cap and trade. Yeah, not quite with a cap. It's kind of
an allowance. But one thing I have heard, which I don't know if it's something that CCL would be interested in pursuing at all, or maybe already is, that market, which would really help a lot, I think, to have an efficient market where people can buy and sell these things, is not well developed at all. So if you actually have credits and you want to sell them, it's very hard to, there isn't an efficient way for buyers to meet sellers right now. It's not like the Toronto Stock Exchange where, you go, there's an exchange and an agreed upon mechanism for, doing these. You have to sort of pick up the phone and call people. There isn't really a good market mechanism at the moment, as far as I understand.
Yeah, Niall, you should join the action team for developing the lobbying ask. We would really appreciate that sort of intel. We have our colleagues in Montreal who are actually also nuancing that. You know how in Canada, by July 1st, most trade barriers are supposed to be dissolving?
Right.
We also want the barriers to doing this sort of carbon trading to also be dissolving. So you're welcome to join that team, and you can contact me if you want to.
Oh, I'd love to, yeah.
Okay, Niall.
As you can probably tell, I come from a finance background. So
Oh, yes, that's right. I meet so many people a year. Can I put you... Actually, can you contact... No, I'm gonna connect you and Mark together.
Mark, what's his last name?
Mark Taylor.
Ah, I know Mark Taylor very, very well.
Oh,
actually, he's the one. I'm actually quoting Mark Taylor as I tell you this. I learned all this from him.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so Mark Taylor's in charge of the lobbying ask. We really want to get nuanced on that piece. And that's why it's so important that we stay utterly focused on carbon pricing. Because if we start doing all the other things, it gets confusing for the volunteers. And so wish other organizations would train people to go do national lobbying for other things. It would make my job easier.
Okay, I will reach out to him. That's fun. Okay.
Fine, great.
I'll CC you.
Oh, that'd be lovely. So we do have that other action this month that I would like to focus on, if I may, just Jane, did you have any questions? Are you in contact with the CCL Toronto members, Jane?
Just as of today.
Just
I'm
okay.
very active in Seniors for Climate Action now, an Ontario climate emergency campaign.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah,
I
we
know,
do.
I know the same people keep showing up in different things.
Yeah. We also have an Ontario actions, but they won't start. Like first, yeah, they'll start to rev up in June, July, and August. Right now, we're just trying to figure out what we're going to lobby the Ontario government for, and we got to collect the intel. We're trying to figure out where can we push to make things go faster, right? And it's not so much carbon pricing with the Ontario government. It's more like just trying to get them to lift the regulations, the prohibitive things for installing clean energy. So I wanted to get back to the website, to our website. So we have this really interesting idea. We hope to get at least 5 of our members who can sit down with their MPs to talk about the G7. And as I said earlier, our 2 laser talks this month are about the G7, and you can find those on the homepage. This is also in the action sheets that our volunteers get every month. So we're hoping at least 5 MPs will meet with their constituents to talk about G7. They can meet over breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or coffee or tea, whatever you're most comfortable with. And we want to focus in on climate, but we wanted to show the politicians that we see the bigger picture, that yes, we are focused on climate, but every policy that's ever created, all human rights, everyone's, Indigenous, BIPOC, LGBTQI plus, everybody, women, children, even like nature's rights should, they must be included. And then democracy thrives on meaningful civic engagement, and we want them to know that multilateralism is also important to us. Jane, yes.
My MP is very strong on human rights and will sit down with me over coffee, but I'm not clear how he would relate to the G7. The MPs don't go to that.
Yeah, okay.
What would I be actually asking him to do?
Yeah, okay. Jane, who's your MP?
Ali Assassi.
Ali Assassi, okay.
Unfortunately left out of cabinet, which is crazy because he's a lawyer specializing in international trade and tariffs.
Okay, so this is like the whole thing about the G7, right? Like, so what Donald Trump has done is he's gone after he's blown apart the 3 Ds and the T. He's blown apart development. He's blown apart diplomacy. He's blown up defense, and he's blown up trade. Those 4 things, the 3 Ds and the T, have kept world peace. This is how we've been, having money flowing and diplomacy and giving aid to countries so that we can lift them up, whether that would have been Germany and Japan post World War II, or, Korea in the last 30 years, or how we've eliminated tuberculosis or alleviated tuberculosis and AIDS around the world. Helping countries with their development can help them economically, which can help them bring up. And Donald Trump has blown all that apart. So the whole idea, this is Canada is the G7 leader again. And this time we really, truly have to lead alone. So we're using the G7 as a wedge to get in, not as a negative wedge, a wedge to get in with our MPs to say, hey, we're really concerned about the climate and in the context of the G7. So, I want you to know this is the bigger picture that we see. That that human rights are must-haves, not nice to have, that our democracy is under attack, that multilateralism is really important, and taking care of everybody, but really want to focus on Canada being a climate leader, and what sort of policies do you think Canada must enact in the context of what's happening right now? And what policies do you think your government will enact? And then that's this intel that we want to collect is really important. Like, because this will help us decide what we're going to be lobbying for next. So there's no point pushing for something that there's no political will on Parliament Hill for. So that's the whole context here. And if you did it in context, Jane, with your fellow CCLers in Toronto, which there's and same with you, Ezra, there's really great CCLers here too in Ottawa. You just sit down and you just have a conversation where it's not truly lobbying what we're doing at this point. We're more like intel gathering and relationship building, and also being cheerleaders for Canada being a leader at the G7 as well. So I did it 15 years ago. A call out was to meet with your MP about the G8 and the G20, and I loved it. And I thought, you know what, let's just do this again. And at the very core of what we do at CCL is build a relationship with our members of Parliament around the climate crisis so we can become a trusted person in their riding to do that work.
Will there be a tip sheet that deals with some of what you've just been saying that's going to get sent out to CCL Canada members?
Yeah, let me show you again where everything is. Okay. So first of all, I highly recommend not doing it alone, working with your group. So it's found on 2 places. So every single month, our leaders get action sheets, and they're found on the homepage of our website at canada.citizensclimatelobby.org. And so there is tips in there, and you can find them on the homepage of our website. And you can just click on G7 at the table, and everything's in there. It's all laid out in there. Oh, I lost it. Boom. Sorry. Let me try that again. Yeah. And so it's all in there, including like it's all the tips are in there, how to do this. And then there's more details. Like if you really want to like wrap your head around it, it's not something you would read or know, but we just wanted to give you the background that you needed to help contextualize this in your own mind, like you would for any assignment. And then there's an agenda. So suggested agenda is introductions, and keep things casual, and then agree to at what point in the meal you shall go after the official agenda. So every time we meet with a member of Parliament or any politician, we appreciate something about them. And of course, we're going to congratulate them on winning the recent election and state the goals of the meal. And be sure to have a copy of the placemats, which is that little sign there, to focus and visually cue your conversations. Most importantly, take pictures at the end, because we want to pull together a report that you can actually send out a media release. Hey, I met with my MP about the G7 and this is what we agreed to share with the world. We'll coach you on how to do that. And and then here's how to invite them. And if you can't find the action sheets from the homepage on our website, which is right here, and it's always there, it's been there for 10 years now. We also have all the instructions here, or we should. If not, I'll cut and paste them there soon.